My name is Thalia Crestwin, and for most of my life I believed that art was the one place where truth could not be stolen. Brush strokes don't lie. Shadows can't fake themselves. Colors always show their real intent. But New York, especially during Manhattan Art Week, has a way of reminding you that even beauty comes with teeth. I moved into my small studio loft in Soho 3 years ago, thinking the creaking floors and exposed brick would inspire me. It did. But it also placed me in the orbit of people who smiled with their mouths and competed with their knives. One of them was Seraphine Veil, another rising painter in the gallery circuit. She was the kind of woman who entered a room like she expected applause, the kind who complimented you while memorizing your weaknesses. We weren't friends, not really. But in the art world, proximity is often mistaken for camaraderie. The week of my biggest gallery showcase, I lived inside my studio. Every morning smelled like acrylic and ambition. Every night echoed with the clatter of brushes hitting glass jars. My collection was nearly finished, 7 canvases exploring how color fractures under emotional pressure. I called it Pressure Chromatics. And the Gallery Marlowe had given me a prime spot on opening night, a dream slot for any emerging artist. That dream ended on a Tuesday morning. I remember dipping my brush into a deep ultramarine, my signature shade, and watching it swirl into the water like it had lost its soul. I frowned and reached for the tube. The texture felt wrong, too thin, too watery. I squeezed more onto my palette. It slithered out like tinted liquid. "Not again," I whispered. At first, I thought maybe the brand had changed formulas, but when I opened a second tube, then a third, the same thing happened. Every color I checked was diluted. Every single one. I stood frozen, my heart thudding so loudly it drowned out the traffic below. Someone had tampered with my paints. I scanned my studio, suddenly hyper-aware of every detail. The window latch was slightly off-center. A jar on the shelf was left open, though I never left it that way. My canvases, stacked neatly the night before, were now uneven, as if someone had rifled through them. No, my voice cracked. I rushed to the canvas I'd been working on, a portrait of a woman dissolving into refracted colors. When I tried to touch it, my hand hit empty air. The canvas was gone. I checked the rest. 2 were missing. Another was flipped backward, smeared with someone else's fingerprints. My lungs tightened. The room spun. My entire body felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. Who would do this to me? But I knew. I knew instantly. Seraphine and I shared the same studio landlord. She had a spare key. She had access. She had motive. She also had a showcase scheduled the day before mine. My mind replayed every interaction we'd had that week, the lingering glances at my color boards, the forced laughter, the comments she made 2 days ago. "You work too hard, Thalia. Sometimes a little unpredictability makes art better." At the time, I brushed it off. Now it wrapped around my throat like a noose. I sank onto my paint-splattered stool and buried my face in my trembling hands. I felt violated, exposed, like someone had reached into my chest and rearranged the wires that made me who I was. Art wasn't just my job. It was the language I used to understand myself. And someone had tried to erase me mid-sentence. I tried to steady my breathing, but a wave of nausea rolled through me. If I didn't fix this fast, I'd miss the gallery deadline, something the director had warned me about. I grabbed my phone and stared at the dark screen. Should I report it? The police wouldn't care. The gallery might pull my slot. And Seraphine, she'd deny everything. "No," I whispered, "I need proof." But even as I said it, my studio felt emptier than ever. If 2 canvases were missing, they were probably destroyed. And diluted paint ruined an entire collection. I stood, pacing, panic thrumming through my ribs like a drumbeat. Then the door to my studio creaked. I froze. Someone was outside. A shadow passed beneath the frame. Slow, deliberate. My skin prickled. I stepped backward, gripping a palette knife, even though my hand shook violently. The shadow paused. Then a soft knock echoed through the room. 3 slow taps, like someone with all the time in the world. "Thalia!" A woman's voice, smooth, familiar. Seraphine. My blood turned cold. Of all days, of all moments, she was here now. "Are you working?" she asked sweetly through the door. I thought I'd stop by. See how your collection is coming along." Her tone was honey, but every instinct in my body screamed poison. I didn't answer. My breath stayed locked in my throat. Her shadow lingered. Then another voice joined her, male, deeper, also familiar. My landlord. What were they doing together? My heart thudded painfully. Something was happening, something bigger than diluted paint and missing canvases. And I was standing on the wrong side of the door. The landlord whispered something. Seraphine laughed softly. And then the doorknob began to turn, slowly, a millimeter at a time. My chest tightened as I clutched the palette knife, hiding behind the shelving unit. My thoughts spiraled. Are they coming back to finish what they started? Did they think I wouldn't notice? How far were they planning to go? The door hinge creaked. Light from the hallway spilled in. I held my breath as their silhouettes stretched across the floor. And then the door opened wider. I saw Seraphine step inside. And she wasn't smiling. Not even pretending. Her eyes swept the room, calculating, predatory, landing right where my ruined paints sat on the table. Something cold and electric shot through me. This wasn't sabotage anymore. This was a warning, and I had no idea what she was about to do next. Seraphine stepped farther into my studio, her heels clicking sharply against the worn wooden floor. I stayed behind the shelving unit, gripping the palette knife so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Looks like someone's been busy," she said, her voice coated in syrup but edged with steel. Her eyes drifted across my workspace, lingering on the ruined paint tubes lined up like casualties. I swallowed hard. I needed to stay hidden, to observe, to understand why she was really here. Behind her, my landlord, Mr. Kelman, hovered in the doorway. He wasn't usually timid, but today he shifted his weight like he wanted to disappear. "Seraphine, I don't think you should be in—" he began. "Oh, hush," she interrupted lightly, waving him off. "She's probably not home. I just wanted to check in." Check in? On what? How much destruction she'd caused? My breath stuck in my throat as she walked toward my easel. She stopped in front of the empty space where my missing canvas had once stood. Her smile flickered, not guilt, anticipation. "I heard Thalia's been under pressure," she said aloud, as though performing for an invisible audience. "Deadlines can be so unforgiving." Mr. Kelman cleared his throat. "Still, you shouldn't be in here without her permission. If she finds out—" "Oh, please, she never locks her door properly." Her tone sharpened on the last word. A chill ran through me. How many times had she let herself in before today? She walked to my table next, plunging a finger into one of the diluted paint jars. She lifted it to the light, watching the thin liquid drip down her nail. "Well," she murmured, "that certainly won't hold on canvas." I almost lunged out of hiding. Anger surged hot and bright through my chest. But I forced myself to stay still. I needed answers, not an explosion. "Seraphine," the landlord hissed quietly, "we should go." She turned to him, her expression briefly hardening into something cold and vicious. Then it softened into a smirk. "Relax, Kelman. You're acting like you had something to do with this." His face drained of color. My stomach dropped. What does she mean? Did he help her? Or just look the other way? He stammered, I didn't. Seraphine, don't drag me into—" "Oh, calm down." She placed a manicured hand on his arm. "You're only guilty of poor timing." The implication hung in the air like toxic smoke. I pressed my back against the wall, heart hammering. This wasn't a random act of sabotage. It was coordinated, or at least tolerated. Seraphine took a slow walk around the studio again, as if memorizing the room. Then she stopped at my storage cabinet, the one I always kept locked. Except today, the lock was slightly cracked, like someone had pried it open. She noticed, and smiled wider. Well, well. She touched the broken latch with mock sympathy. It's incredible what people will do when they're desperate to stay relevant. My chest tightened with humiliation and fury. She was taunting me in my own space, flaunting what she'd done. And suddenly, I understood. She wasn't here to hide her crime. She wanted me to know. She wanted me to panic, to crumble, to miss my deadline. Because if I failed, she'd shine all the brighter at her showcase. I could feel tears stinging behind my eyes. Anger, betrayal, helplessness swirling together. No, not helplessness. Something sharper began forming beneath the pain, a hard, clear determination. I would not break. Not for her, not for anyone, and certainly not in my own studio. Seraphine turned toward the door again. "So tragic," she said breezily. "I do hope Thalia finds a way to recover, though I suppose some artists just can't handle pressure." Her voice oozed satisfaction. She stepped toward the doorway, but then she paused. Slowly, deliberately, she looked directly toward the shelving unit. Toward me. My blood froze. Had she seen a shadow? Heard my breath? Or was she simply testing the air, knowing I might be listening? Her lips curved into a thin smile. "Anyway," she murmured, "I wanted to make sure everything was exactly how it needs to be." Her gaze didn't shift. Did she know I was there? My pulse slammed in my ears. Then she winked. A single, slow, taunting wink. My heart nearly dropped out of my chest. She turned back to the landlord. "Come on, Kelman, we're done here." He hesitated, looking increasingly nervous. "Seraphine, this is going too far." "Too far?" she snapped quietly. "You owe me, unless you've forgotten." The tension between them crackled like exposed wires. Kelman's shoulders slumped in defeat. He followed her out. The door closed behind them with a soft click, but the silence they left behind was deafening. I stayed frozen for several seconds, listening to their footsteps fade. When I finally stepped out from behind the shelving unit, my knees nearly buckled. My studio felt like a crime scene. My sanctuary had been violated, my trust sliced open. But beneath the fear and fury, something else pulsed through me. Resolve. I wiped my face with the back of my hand and whispered to myself, "I'm not letting her win." I opened my storage cabinet, examining the damage. Some tools were missing, others were tampered with. Then, in the back corner, barely visible, a small black smudge like a fingerprint, not mine. A clue, a spark, a starting point. I leaned closer and realized something even worse. The smudge wasn't just paint, it was ash, burnt canvas. My missing canvases. My breath left my body in a sharp gasp. But then, a sudden noise made me jump. My phone lit up on the table. A new message, no name, just a number. And the text read, "You're next." The room blurred. My fingers shook as I picked up the phone, reading the message again. Someone knew, someone was watching, someone else was involved. And this wasn't over, not even close. The message, "You're next," burned on my phone screen like a threat carved into my skin. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. Not properly, not without feeling the walls of my studio closing in. I forced myself to inhale, exhale, again. Then I locked the door, triple-checked it, and sat down at my work table, placing the phone in front of me like evidence. "Okay, Thalia," I whispered to myself, "think." I stared at the message, replaying everything that had happened in the last hour. The diluted paint, the missing canvases, the ash, Seraphine's smirk, Kelman's fear, and now, this. Someone else was involved. Someone who wasn't afraid to threaten me directly. But who and why now? I opened the message thread. No previous texts, no name. Area code from New Jersey. It could be anyone, I muttered. But I didn't believe that. People like Seraphine did nothing alone. She cultivated allies the way some people cultivated plants, carefully, strategically, pruning as needed. And someone had clearly been helping her. My eyes drifted to the ash on the cabinet shelf. Burnt canvas. The thought made my stomach twist. Had she burned my work here? Or somewhere else? Why leave a trace? Unless the trace was intentional. A breadcrumb, a psychological knife. I leaned closer, examining it again. It wasn't just ash. It had tiny flecks of pigment embedded in it. My pigment. Whoever burned the canvases hadn't bothered to hide the evidence properly. Or they wanted me to know exactly what they did. I pressed trembling fingers to my temples. Part of me wanted to scream, to cry, to break something. But another part, the deeper part, the part that had moved to New York alone at 22 with nothing but a sketchbook and a stubborn heart, that part was growing sharper, colder, focused. "I need proof," I whispered. "And cameras, real ones, hidden ones. If someone planned to sabotage me again, I needed to catch them." I forced myself to stand and grabbed my coat. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys twice before managing to open the door. The hallway was empty, silent, too silent. I locked up and practically flew down the stairs onto the street. New York slapped me with cold air and noise, grounding me instantly. People, taxis, shouts, life. The city didn't care about my nightmare, it just kept moving. Good, that meant I could move too. I walked fast, weaving through crowds until I reached the electronics shop on Prince Street. Cameras, mics, motion sensors. I bought enough gear to monitor a bank vault. When I returned to my building, though, a new anxiety crept up my spine. What if they were still here? What if someone had been watching me leave? I took the stairs slowly this time, listening for movement behind each door. Nothing. But when I reached my studio, my heart dropped. My welcome mat was crooked. I froze. Had it always been like that? Had Seraphine moved it earlier? Had someone been here while I was gone? I swallowed hard, unlocked the door, and stepped inside cautiously. Nothing seemed disturbed. But now I couldn't trust my own memory. "Get it together," I whispered. I set the equipment down and got to work installing it. Small wireless cameras tucked into corners, disguised as art supplies, hidden in jars and the tops of shelves. If anyone entered again, I would know. Eventually, I stepped back, surveying the room. The studio felt different now. Wired, watched, protected, but still tainted, still scarred. I checked the time, 5:42 p.m. I had less than 2 days before the gallery deadline. Even without the missing canvases, the diluted paint had destroyed hours of work. I needed new materials, fresh canvases, time I didn't have, but I refused to give up. I sat down at the easel and squeezed out new paint, straight from untouched backup tubes I kept hidden in a locked drawer Seraphine apparently hadn't found. I picked up a brush. My hand trembled. I swallowed hard. "This is your voice," I told myself. "Don't let them silence it." I touched the brush to the canvas. Color bloomed. For a moment, I felt whole. Then, a loud, sharp bang against my door made me jump. The brush skidded, streaking a jagged line across the fresh paint. My heart pounded as I slowly stood. Another bang. Harder. Someone was on the other side. "Thalia, open up!" My stomach dropped. It wasn't Seraphine, it wasn't Kelman. It was Landon Pierce, the curator from Gallery Marlowe. Why was he here? I opened the door a crack. "Landon, what?" He pushed inside without waiting. His face was flushed, eyes wide with urgency. "Thalia, we need to talk, now." My breath caught. "Is something wrong?" "Someone just contacted the gallery," he said, pacing. "They claimed you were going to pull out of the showcase." My mouth fell open. "What? Who would—" He raised a hand. "That's not all." He took out his phone, scrolling before handing it to me. A new email, sent anonymously, and attached. A photo of one of my missing canvases, but not burned, not destroyed, hanging on a wall at Seraphine Veil's private showing. My blood turned to ice. "That's impossible," I whispered. "They were stolen. They were—" Landon's voice softened. "Thalia, whoever sent this is claiming you faked the theft, that you're using drama to get attention for your slot." "What? That's insane." He exhaled deeply, rubbing his forehead. "The gallery board wants answers, and fast. If they think you're involved in anything unethical, they'll pull your showcase." My throat tightened. This was exactly what Seraphine wanted. Not just to sabotage my work, but to destroy my credibility. I steadied myself. "Landon, listen to me. I didn't send that email. I didn't fake anything. Someone broke in. Someone ruined my supplies, stole my canvases, and now they're framing me." He watched me carefully. "I want to believe you," he said, "but you need proof." My eyes drifted to the hidden cameras, the ash, the fingerprint, the message. "I'll get it," I said, my voice low and fierce. "I'll get everything." But just as I spoke, my phone buzzed again. A new message. This one with a photo of me, taken through the studio window. The photo on my phone made my blood run cold. It showed my studio from outside the window, a slightly tilted angle, grainy but close enough to see me, standing frozen, brush in hand, staring at the door. Someone had been right outside, watching, close enough to reach through the glass if they wanted. Behind me, Landon inhaled sharply. "Thalia, when was this taken?" I don't know, I whispered. My voice barely made it out. He stepped closer to look, his expression darkening. If someone is stalking you, this isn't just a gallery issue anymore. I swallowed, gripping the phone so tightly it hurt. He was right. This was no longer simple sabotage. This was intimidation, personal, and deliberate. I need to call the police, Landon said. No! I grabbed his arm instinctively. He startled, then looked at me in confusion. If we call the police now, I said, forcing my voice steady, Seraphine will find out. She'll spin it. She'll say I'm making drama again, exactly like that email accused me of. Landon hesitated. I continued, I need proof first. Real proof. Enough to show the gallery board how deep this goes. He exhaled, frustrated but listening. And I've already set up cameras, I added. If anyone comes back here, we'll catch them. Landon rubbed the back of his neck, pacing. This is dangerous, Thalia. You shouldn't be alone. I almost laughed. I had been alone for years, emotionally, financially, creatively. But now, the isolation felt sharper. I'll be okay, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. Landon looked at me a moment longer before nodding reluctantly. I'll talk to the board and buy you some time. But you need to do your part fast. They won't wait forever. Thank you, I whispered. He squeezed my shoulder gently. Don't disappear on me, okay? A weak laugh escaped me. I'll try not to. He left and the door clicked shut behind him, leaving me once again alone in the tense, suffocating quiet of the studio. I locked the door, then checked it again and again. Eventually, I slid down with my back against it, hugging my knees. What is happening to me? I whispered to the empty room. I had moved to New York for passion, for art, for the thrill of creation, not for paranoia, not for fear. But fear was here now, unavoidable as the paint stains on my hands. Still, fear didn't stop me. It sharpened me. I forced myself to my feet and began reviewing each camera angle on my phone app. All online, all recording. Good. Then I checked the windows. Locked, secured, curtains drawn. My mind kept replaying the photo. Whoever took it, they were close enough to see inside, to study me. I shuddered. That meant they knew my habits, my schedule, maybe even my weaknesses. I turned on every light in the studio to banish the shadows, then walked to my desk and pulled out the notebook where I planned all my collections. I flipped to a fresh page. Suspects, I wrote at the top. Seraphine Veil, obvious motive, jealous, already sabotaged the studio. Kelman, landlord, access, suspicious behavior, connection to Seraphine, anonymous texter, likely directly involved. Unknown stalker, possibly same person as number 3 or another accomplice. A cold realization hit me. What if the anonymous texter was Seraphine? What if she had been outside the window herself? The thought made my stomach turn, but something didn't add up. Seraphine wanted credit, recognition, admiration. She didn't hide her cruelty. She flaunted it. She taunted me in person earlier. A stalker hiding in the shadows felt different, more dangerous in a way Seraphine wasn't subtle enough to be. Another thought surfaced. Could this be someone from my past? Someone who knew me before New York? I shut that thought down immediately. No one from my past cared enough to follow me states away. At least, I hope not. My phone buzzed suddenly and I jumped so hard the notebook almost fell off the table. A notification. Motion detected. Camera 2, window corner. My breath stopped. I opened the live feed instantly. At first, it was just the alley behind the building. Dim streetlight. Dumpster. Brick walls. Then, a shape. A figure leaning just out of the camera's full view. I couldn't make out their face, just a dark silhouette. My pulse hammered so loud I could hear it in my ears. The figure stepped closer. Closer. Their foot entered the frame. Black boot, sharp heel. Seraphine's style. Or her accomplices. I tried to zoom in, but the figure abruptly stepped back into the shadows. Gone. The feed showed nothing but stillness again. I forced myself to breathe. Just as I lowered the phone, clack. Something hit the window. My heart nearly exploded. I spun toward it, eyes wide. A small envelope lay against the glass, pressed between the pane and the fire escape railing. Someone had placed it there, just seconds ago. I crept forward slowly, every muscle tight, and unlatched the window just enough to reach out and grab it. The envelope was cold, damp from the night air. Inside was a single Polaroid photo of my studio door, taken from the hallway. Underneath, in messy black ink, someone had written, "Deadlines are deadly." My knees went weak. I wasn't imagining it. This wasn't paranoia spiraling out of control. Someone was watching me from inside the building, and they knew my deadline was in 2 days. Whoever they were escalating. The games were turning into warnings. The warnings were turning into threats. I backed away from the window, clutching the Polaroid, trying to steady my breathing. Then, another notification buzzed. Motion detected. Camera 1, studio door. My blood froze. I opened the feed. A figure stood at my door. Not Seraphine, not Kelman. Someone wearing a dark hoodie, holding something long and thin. A crowbar, and they were lifting it toward my lock. The figure on the camera lifted the crowbar again, angling it beneath the lock with cold precision. No, I whispered, stepping back instinctively. My mind spun. If I yelled, they would break the door faster. If I stayed silent, they might come in anyway. If I called the police, it would be too late. The crowbar wedged deeper. Metal groaned. Whoever this was, they were strong, experienced. Not someone fumbling through an impulsive break-in. This was deliberate. I slowly backed toward my work table, hands scrambling for something, anything to defend myself. My fingers wrapped around a heavy glass jar filled with brushes. It wasn't much, but it was weighty and sharp if shattered. The camera feed flickered as the figure leaned closer to the door. Their hood shadowed their face completely. Then, crack. The first bolt snapped. My breath hitched. They were getting in. I looked around the room, searching desperately for a hiding spot. Behind the shelves? Under the work table? In the storage cabinet? No, all too obvious. My studio wasn't big enough to hide in, not from someone determined. The second bolt began to bend under pressure. I could hear it. The slow, awful screech of metal losing the fight. I clutched the glass jar tighter. My knees trembled. My vision blurred around the edges as adrenaline surged. "This is really happening," I whispered. "I'm about to be face to face with whoever's been watching me." The third bolt gave way with a violent pop. Then silence. A terrible, breathless silence. My camera showed the figure lowering the crowbar and grasping the doorknob. They twisted it slowly, testing. The lock clicked, the deadbolt slid back, and the door began to open. A sliver of the hallway appeared, then a shadow, then I heard footsteps on the landing. Footsteps running. Fast. Heavy. Then a man's voice shouting, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" The intruder froze. The camera shook as the hooded figure spun, looking toward the hallway. I recognized that voice. Mr. Richter. My neighbor 2 doors down. The retired firefighter with a habit of patrolling the building late at night. He shouted again, "Step away from that door!" The intruder bolted. The camera caught them sprinting down the hall, Richter chasing behind, yelling curses. Then, nothing. They were gone. I collapsed against my work table, the glass jar slipping from my grip and thudding onto the floor. My whole body shook violently. I was seconds from confronting someone who intended to break in, who intended, what? To threaten me? Destroy more art? Hurt me? I didn't know, but the fear in my chest was real and alive and choking. A knock startled me so hard I almost screamed. "Thalia, it's Richter." My lungs finally drew air. I rushed to the door, but didn't open it yet. "How do I know it's really you?" I asked through the wood. I heard him chuckle, out of breath. "Because I'm the only guy in this building who bangs on pipes every morning at 6, sweetheart." Yep, that was him. I unlocked the door and cracked it open. Mr. Richter stood there, graying hair tousled, chest heaving, wearing sweatpants and an old FDNY shirt. "You okay?" he asked, scanning my face. "No," I admitted, shaking. "Someone tried to break in." "I saw them," he said, anger flashing in his eyes. "Came up the stairs and saw a shadow crouched at your lock." "Did you see their face?" "No, hood up, moved fast." I swallowed hard. What if they come back? "They won't tonight," he said firmly. I shouted half the neighborhood awake. I managed a trembling exhale. Richter's expression softened. "You should call the police." My throat tightened. I'm afraid if I do, my gallery will think I'm unstable. They already believe I'm creating drama. "Forget what they think," he snapped. "This is your safety." "But I need proof," I whispered. "If I can collect enough evidence, I can expose everything at once. Seraphine, the sabotage, the stalking, without giving them time to twist the story." He looked at me for a long moment. "You're stubborn as hell," he muttered. Then gently, "But all right. Just don't try to handle this alone." "Thank you," I whispered. He patted the door frame. "I'll sleep light tonight. If you hear anything, you bang on the wall. Got it?" I nodded. He left, his footsteps fading down the hall. When I finally shut the door again, the studio felt colder than it had ever felt. The air tasted metallic, like fear. I sank onto the floor, pulling my knees to my chest. "What do they want from me?" I whispered. No answer came. But then my phone buzzed again. Not a motion alert, not a text, an email notification. From the gallery. Subject line: "Urgent, formal review of your exhibition slot." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a message from the gallery board requesting an immediate meeting first thing tomorrow morning. Attached were 3 items. The anonymous email accusing me of fabricating sabotage, the photo of my canvas at Seraphine's showcase, a forwarded message from someone claiming to be a concerned witness, stating they saw me outside Seraphine's studio last night, acting suspicious. My vision tilted. I had never gone near her studio, not yesterday, not ever. Someone was constructing an entire narrative around me, a narrative meant to destroy me completely. Emotion churned into something new, not fear, not helplessness, but fury. Cold, clear, structured. I wiped my tears fiercely and stood. If they wanted a war, they were going to get one. I reached for my notebook, flipped to a new page, and wrote in bold strokes, "Revenge Plan, Phase 1. But before I could write another line, my camera app pinged. "Motion detected. Camera 2, window corner." Again. I opened the live feed. This time there was no silhouette, no intruder, just a single item left on the fire escape outside my window. A paintbrush, one of mine, broken in half. The broken paintbrush lay on the fire escape like a dead limb. A warning, a signature, a message carved not in words but in humiliation. My chest tightened. This stalker, this saboteur, they weren't just hurting my work, they were dismantling me, piece by piece. I reached out carefully and pulled the broken brush inside, holding it like it might shatter further in my hands. This brush, I knew exactly which one it was. The same brush I used for my ultramarine blends, the one I guarded almost superstitiously. Someone had taken it from inside my studio, meaning they'd been here long before the attempted break-in, meaning the night wasn't even the beginning. My throat constricted. I sank into my chair, turning the broken pieces over, trying to steady my breathing. "This is intentional," I whispered. "This is personal." My phone buzzed with another notification. "Camera 1, door locked. No activity detected." Good. At least for now. I placed the paintbrush fragments onto my table and stared at them as though they could give me answers. Who hated me enough to orchestrate all this? Seraphine? She was vicious, yes. Competitive, yes. But this level of obsession? This level of stalking? No, she wasn't subtle enough. She liked being the villain center stage. This was someone who preferred the shadows. Someone who wanted to break me without being seen. I exhaled shakily and reopened my notebook. Revenge Plan, Phase 1. I began writing. 1. Gather proof of break-in attempts, save all footage. 2. Track timeline of sabotage, plus messages. 3. Identify patterns in attacker behavior, 4. Prepare evidence file for gallery board. 5. Cross-reference with Seraphine's schedule, was contacts. 6. Dig deeper into Kelman's connection with her. I hesitated on the last line. Kelman. Something about him felt wrong. During the intrusion earlier, he'd looked terrified. Not of what Seraphine had done, but of being implicated. Why? What did she have on him? And why had he allowed her access to my studio? A hard chill slid down my spine. I needed answers from him, but confronting him alone felt reckless. Still, the gallery meeting was tomorrow morning. If I didn't gather anything before then, I could lose everything. A sudden loud crack of thunder filled the night, shaking the building slightly. Rain hammered against the window. Good. Rain meant fewer people lurking on fire escapes, or so I hoped. I stood, paced once, then grabbed my coat. If I was going to talk to Kelman, now was the time. Late enough that he might be home. Late enough that Seraphine wouldn't be hovering. I slipped my phone in my pocket along with a small recording mic, just in case. When I opened my studio door, the hallway felt different, echoing, stretched, electric with tension. I walked slowly toward the landlord's unit on the first floor. The building creaked with wind and rain. When I reached his door, I hesitated. What if he was involved deeper than I realized? What if I walked into danger willingly? Before I could overthink it, I knocked. Once, twice. A shuffle sounded inside. Then the door opened a crack. Kelman's eyes peeked through. When he saw me, they widened. Thalia, why are you here this late? His voice trembled. Someone tried to break into my studio, I said. He blanched. I didn't, what do you mean? Don't play dumb, I snapped, my fear sharpening into anger. You gave Seraphine access to my unit. She tampered with my paints. She stole my canvases. I didn't know she said you two were collaborating. Don't lie. He flinched. Rain slammed harder against the hallway windows. I took a step closer. What does she have on you, Kelman? Why are you helping her? I'm not, he insisted, voice cracking. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Then tell me the truth. He looked over his shoulder nervously, then opened the door wider and motioned me inside. My pulse thudded. His apartment was small, dimly lit, cluttered with boxes and papers. He locked the door behind me. My stomach twisted. Why did you lock it? I asked quietly. For privacy, he said shakily. I don't want anyone hearing. I didn't like that answer. He gestured for me to sit. I didn't. Kelman rubbed his hands together, pacing. Seraphine, she threatened me. How? She said she'd report my building violations to the city. The old wiring, the plumbing issues, the basement mold, everything. I could lose this place. So you let her into my studio? He winced. She said she just needed lighting measurements. I didn't know she planned anything. Then why were you with her earlier in my hallway? Kelman stopped pacing. His face drained of every remaining hint of color. I didn't want to be, he whispered. She told me to come. Said she needed me to distract you if you showed up. My hands curled into fists. And you agreed? I was scared, Thalia. So am I shot back. But I'm not helping destroy someone else's life. He sagged onto the sofa. That's the thing, he said in a shaking voice. It's not just her. My heart slowed. What do you mean, not just her? Kelman covered his face with both hands. Someone else is involved. Someone worse. Every muscle in my body tightened. Who? I don't know their name. Seraphine calls them the patron. They've been pushing her to secure her gallery position for months. They said you were in the way. My blood chilled. The patron. A shadowy figure pulling strings from behind the scenes. And they told her to target me? I asked. Kelman nodded miserably. They said you were a threat, that your showcase would steal attention from hers. They wanted you destabilized before the exhibition. I exhaled shakily. A faceless puppet master, a saboteur with influence, someone powerful enough to mobilize Seraphine, and someone else to break me. Do you know anything else? I asked. Kelman opened his mouth but froze. His eyes widened. Then he whispered, terrified, "Someone's outside." I turned slowly. The hallway window, partially visible through his apartment door's glass pane, flickered with movement. A silhouette, standing perfectly still, watching.